They say the West was built on dust, blood, and the kind of silence that makes a man question his own heartbeat. But sometimes it was built on a whisper. I remember the evening like it's still hanging in the air, the sky turning copper, the wind dragging cold breath across the prairie, and the horses restless in their stalls, as if they sensed a storm before I did. My name is Elias Ward, a rancher living 3 miles south of Willow Bend. I wasn't the kind of man who invited trouble. But trouble, well, trouble has its own way of walking right up to your door. That night I was latching the barn when I heard the faintest sound. Not a cry, not a scream, just a soft, broken gasp, almost swallowed by the wind. I turned. A figure staggered into view. A woman, thin, tattered, barefoot, her hair wind-tossed, her dress ripped, skin scraped raw like she had run through thorns and hellfire at the same time. Before I could take a step toward her, she collapsed against the fence post. I rushed to her, and when she looked up at me, I swear something inside me stopped. Her fear wasn't normal fear. It was the kind that gets carved into a person, the kind that comes from being hunted. And then she whispered the words that would change both our lives. Please, don't let him find me. Her whisper wasn't even a whisper. It was a plea wrapped in a tremble. I lowered my hat. You're safe. Nobody's finding you here. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled. I caught her before she hit the dirt. What's your name? I asked. For a moment, she didn't answer, as if even her name was something she feared to speak. Then, Mara Quinn. Her voice cracked on the last word. I helped her into the barn, away from the biting wind. She clutched a leather pouch tight against her chest, tighter than breath, like the whole world lived inside it. The lantern glow revealed bruises on her wrists, a cut near her eyebrow, dust mixed with dried tears on her cheeks. Who's after you? I asked gently. She flinched at the question. Then, after a long, shaking breath, she whispered, Duke Ryland. My stomach turned to stone. Duke Ryland, the Northern Valley's self-crowned king, a ranch baron with more guns than cattle, a man people feared even when he wasn't around. I had heard rumors, but seeing fear painted on her face made all the rumors feel small. I was forced into marrying him, she said, voice trembling. My father owed him money. I was the payment. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. For a year, I tried to survive him, but he got worse, crueler, possessive. If I breathed wrong, he'd rage for hours. And when I talked about leaving, he said he owned me. Her fingers dug deeper into the leather pouch. I finally ran last night. I didn't stop. I couldn't. If he finds me, Elias, her breath hitched, he'll kill me. I sat beside her on the barn stool, letting her breathe, letting her find herself in the silence. You can stay tonight, I said firmly. Tomorrow, I'll get you to a safer town. She shook her head violently. No, he'll come here. He searches for me everywhere. Anyone who helps me. Her eyes filled with guilt. Anyone who helps me gets hurt." I leaned forward. "I'm not afraid of him." She looked at me, really looked at me, like she was searching my face for any trace of doubt. "Why?" she whispered. "Why help a stranger?" I didn't tell her the truth, that I saw something in her eyes, a courage barely hanging on, a soul that had been pushed to the edge but refused to fall. Instead, I tipped my hat and said, "Because I don't leave folks to die." She closed her eyes, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Thank you, Elias."
The night the devil came riding. The world felt too quiet after midnight. I'd been on edge for an hour, pacing the yard, checking the shadows, listening to every shift of the wind. Then the dogs started barking. Not the usual bark, but the deep, furious, warning kind. Hoofbeats followed, heavy, thundering, unforgiving. 4 riders, torches blazing, and in front of them, Duke Rylan himself. He rode like a man who owned the night, straight-backed, cruel-eyed, breathing fury. My blood cooled. I stepped forward with my rifle. "Evening, Ward," Duke called, voice smooth as a knife blade. "I'm looking for my wife." "She ain't here," I said calmly. His eyes narrowed, smile fading. "That's so, 'cause her tracks lead straight to your land." I said, I repeated, lowering my stance, "She ain't here." Duke sighed, a slow, irritated breath. "I don't like being lied to." "Neither do I wanted to say. But before I could speak, a soft voice trembled behind me. "Duke, stop!" Mara stepped out of the balm. Her hands shook, but her back stayed straight. Courage and terror woven together. Duke's expression twisted into a mockery of affection. "There she is," he said, "my runaway bride." "I'm not your wife," she said louder this time. "Not any more." His smile hardened into iron. "You think some dusty rancher can protect you? You belong to me, Mara. You always will." I stepped between them. "She ain't property." His men drew guns. I cocked my rifle. Lightning couldn't have cut the air sharper. For a long moment, none of us breathed. Then, Duke jerked his chin. A shot exploded from the darkness. It hit my shoulder, ripping me backward. Pain flashed white hot. I fell into the dirt. Mara screamed. Duke's men rushed forward, firing wildly. I rolled behind the trough, lifted my rifle, and returned fire. One rider fell, then another. The yard echoed with bullets, hooves, curses, and the thunder of rage. Mara grabbed a shovel, hands trembling, and slammed it across the jaw of a rider who tried to grab her. He crashed to the ground. Duke lunged for her. "Come here!" But I stumbled out from behind the trough, blood dripping, and I fired. The bullet hit Duke in the shoulder. He fell to his knees, fury burning in his eyes like wildfire. "You'd kill a man for her," he snarled. I wiped blood from my lip. "For her, for justice, for the way you treat people. Pick any reason you like." Duke spat at the dirt. "This won't end tonight." He reached for his pistol, but I fired first. The shot echoed across the valley. He collapsed backward, staring blankly at the night sky as the last breath rattled out of him. The silence afterward was so deep it felt holy. Mara dropped the shovel, knees collapsing as she sobbed into her hands. I knelt beside her, ignoring the sting in my shoulder. "It's over," I whispered. "You're free." She leaned into me, shaking with relief and grief and exhaustion. For the first time in her life, she was not owned, not hunted, not trapped behind a man's shadow. She was hers again.
Dawn of a new world. Morning light crept slowly, touching the barn beams, the horses, the dust suspended in air like golden snowfall. Mara sat beside me on the porch as I wrapped my shoulder. Her hands were gentle, too gentle for someone who'd survived such cruelty. "You shouldn't have fought for me," she whispered. "He could have killed you." I smiled faintly. "He tried." She gave a shaky laugh, the first real sound of life I'd heard from her. "You saved my life," she said. "No," I corrected quietly. "You saved your own when you chose to run." She looked away, eyes glistening with fresh tears. "I don't know where to go now." I said, "You don't have to know right now. We'll figure it out." She hesitated. "And you?" she asked softly. "Where will you go?" I lowered my hat the same way I had done the night she begged me for help. "I'll be around," I said, "if you want me to be." She didn't speak. Words weren't needed. She reached out and slid her hand into mine. Warm, steady, hopeful. For the first time in years, she wasn't running. And for the first time in my life, I finally had someone worth standing still for. If this story hit you right in the heart, go ahead and click that hype button down below. It lets me know you want more tales from the old frontier, stories of grit, heartbreak, and redemption. Your support keeps these campfire stories alive. And folks, if you felt that spark between Jesse and Naira, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It keeps the fire burning out here on the trail. Thanks for riding with me tonight. Until next time, keep your heart steady, your aim true, and your soul kind.